Hello people of the tube, welcome to this next video in which I'm going to be looking at the practice software that I have been writing for myself. Now, I normally keep my guitar and my private life in one box on the tube and my professional life in another box on the tube, but in this video I could well be blurring those lines. So those of you that follow my 6-string journey will know me as Cypher. And those of you that are finding me from the Revelation community and the wider PIC community, that's a development community that builds software, you'll know me by my real name, and many of you will know that I am usually behind the camera in front rather than in front of it, or hiding behind the screen doing demos and tutorials. Well, now you get to see me in front of the camera. Right, so this video is all about the software that I have written for myself to enable me to better structure my practice sessions, and as I've found also to motivate myself much more than I have done previously. Now, I have built this piece of software for two reasons. One is that Revelation were getting ready to release a new version of OpenInsight and I wanted to beta test it. And when I am beta testing our software, I like to actually have a real world application or a real world solution, maybe with some value to build, because it does make you get into the software in a different way than just doing a hello world application. But also, I had been using two or three of them I went through over a few weeks. I have been using a few practice applications that were available online, free ones. And while some of them were pretty good, I did find that they didn't give me all of the information that I wanted, and I wanted to track a few other bits and pieces. So the natural option was to build my own, and that's basically why I went about building this piece of software. Now, very often when you've got to run up your laptop and run up the software and you've got to feed it with information, that can be an additional chore when you might want to be practicing. But what I have found is it's not only enabled me to have better structured practice sessions, which a few of you have commented on, but it has also enabled me to become a little bit more motivated. Now, I have had some downtime, as many of you will know, from house renovations and redoing bathrooms and windows and decorating and all the things that have been going on over the last few months. But as we move out of that, I will be using the application much more. And the fact that you are putting in the practice sessions that you want to follow, and then you're putting your scores and you can see those scores, that enables you to see how well or not so well you are doing. And that can both motivate you to pick up the guitar and play, in particular at the end of the day when maybe you're tired and just, you know, as much as we always want to play, and I'm just the same, I want to play every opportunity I get. Sometimes you just, you know, too tired or just can't be bothered. If you don't want to miss that set of stats for that day, then it encourages you to pick up the guitar. And you know, I found it to be very beneficial from that point of view, and just to be able to follow through certain practice items in a structured manner has also helped me no end. In particular, when you've got some homework and maybe you want to be practicing that favourite song, but your teacher actually wants you to be running through those scales, or, you know, as I've had many times, you know, running through chord changes and trying to get them as clean and as quick as possible and struggling. It's very easy to go off at a tangent and do what you like doing rather than some of the things that maybe we should be doing when we're practicing. Now, although the software is written around my journey of learning to play the guitar, it is suitable for any type of practice for anything that is repetitive. So if you are repeating something over and over again and you want to log some statistics in whatever way that you want, then this bit of software can help you. So just to widen the appeal, it isn't just for guitar or music, it could be for just about anything. So anyway, that's basically why I have written this bit of software. A number of you have seen me using it, and as I said, you've asked me what it is and how it's benefiting me. So let's dive into the software and just see what it is, what it does, and how you use it. Be back in just a moment. Right, so the software is a Windows-based bit of software. So if you are running this on a Mac or any other device, then you are going to need some sort of Windows emulator on here, and it's not web-based, so it does need a local install. We first of all get a login page, and we'll just log in. Okay, so I just resized the window just to make this a little bit easier for you to see. But when you log into the system, you are presented with what we refer to as the main application window. This is a multiple document interface window, an MDI window, where most of the practice windows will actually display. There are a few that display outside, and we'll have a look at those very quickly now. So first of all, you've got some information about getting support and maintenance, and you can make this window larger so that you can actually review that. There's an about button so you can see which version that you're running, and there is a help system so that you can get help on each of the modules in the system. And the help system, you can just click on each of these items and it will actually launch that information for you, and then you can use your wheel on your mouse just to scroll through and view the actual help information itself. There is an HTML based help system that ships with the system, but you would run that separately and manually. There's also the system administration window where you can renew the license, you can reset record IDs. Now this isn't a hard tutorial, so I'm not going to go through exactly how to do all of these things. The idea is just to give you an idea of what the system can do. We can set up schools in the system. So if I just return record number 1, then you can see I've got this fictitious school set up. This isn't real information, so you can capture your school information. You can capture details about your teacher. Now, one of the things I should mention is you'll see here that we've got some blue underlined text. If you click that, it normally does things. It does different things depending on the state of the system. So in this instance, it will produce a lookup window of all of the records in the system, and I can just pick a record, click OK, and then that will return that record and I can view it. I could also, for instance, click here and it gives me another lookup window, this time of schools, and I can link this teacher to a particular school. Clicking the email address, for instance, that will try and launch my email client to send an email. I haven't actually got one set up on this machine yet, so it can't actually send the email. But you get the idea of what this can do. Now also on some of the screens there is what we call a tabbed interface, this little tab. So you've got the contact details, then we've got communications. So this is a list of all of the communication records that we have linked to this individual, and I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. And then any general notes. Most of the windows have got a separate area for putting some general notes in. So it's not a lot of information, but just enough to keep a record of all of the teachers that you might have had during the time that you've been practicing or taking lessons or whatever. You've also got the ability to add towns and counties in here, obviously for the schools and the teachers. And then you've got user-defined fields. The system does require some data for communication types, examination boards, grades and results, and people titles. The shipping version will normally ship without any data in here, so I don't bloat the system, and then you can just populate these little windows with whatever data that you want. And then this data is used, as I said, for lookup windows throughout the system. So that's the administration area, very, very lightweight. I mentioned about the communications. They're added simply by clicking this button up here. I'll just return a record. That enables you to put the date and the time. Just clicking date or time will actually put the current date and the current time in, linking it obviously to a teacher, and it doesn't need to be a teacher. This could be any person, any individual. I've just got in as teachers here because I'm only going to personally capture details about my teachers. I'm not really going to capture any communications with anybody else. You've got the communication type. Again, that's being pulled from the system admin area, so that little lookup that I mentioned, and then a subject, and then the detail. So this can give you a list of all of the communications that you've had with any individual. And before I get into the main part, the practice area, I'm just going to cover two other small modules that have been put into the system on request. One is the ability to capture information about your lessons. So this can form quite a nice little diary for you to look back on, and it will document all of your journey learning to play the guitar or learning to do whatever you're learning to do and using the software to track. So we put in a date, we put in a time, lesson number. So let's just capture in what lesson number this is, the teacher's name and the school, and then more importantly, the lesson notes and then details of any homework. So this is more like a diary. It's not necessary for the system, but it's just a diary of your journey. And then if you are working on any examinations, then you get the ability to add those into here. So the examination that you're working towards. Any of the orange, sorry, this sort of mustardy color controls, they're all required controls. And if you don't actually put anything in there, then it will tell you and it will put a little red box around it. So the exam board, the grade, the date that you started, the date that you finished, and the result that you got. And then if you've been emailed the certificate, or if you want to scan it and save it to your computer, then you can add that path in here, which will then enable the certificate to be viewed. And you can search for any certificate just on your system. I recommend you use PDFs, but really it's entirely up to you. And then you can put your general notes in here as well, and that can just be built up over time. And if you want to, you can maximize that window to get more information in there and to view the certificates in a better way. Okay, so one of the more interesting areas of the system is the practice items and the practice sessions and the practice routines. Now, we start off by entering in a practice item. So this is something that we are going to want to practice. It's an item. So in this instance, this is a stretch scale, and we can give it a quick description and we can give it a goal. So what we want to do. And this information can be as long as you want for the description and the goal. And you can click this button to obviously view the information if it's wider than the control allows. With a title, you want to keep that small because it's used in the report and other areas. You then give this particular item a duration, so how long it's going to last for. And then if you have got a video on your machine, so let's say you are following an online tutorial. Maybe it's Justin's guitar lessons or whatever. Then you can download that video, assuming it's downloadable, and you can save that to the system. And then if you actually want to view that, then you can just click this button and it will go away and it will launch the media player and you can view it that way. If you've got a YouTube channel that you're following, then you can just save the URL to the YouTube, and again it will do the same thing. It will then launch that YouTube so that you can actually look at it. Oh, that's a horrible advert, but there we go. Let's just wait until that's finished and skip the ads, and then you can see that you're actually into the video and you can watch it from within the application if you want to. Personally, I would just watch it on YouTube, but you can do that if you want to. And if you're learning a song, then you can link to the song and then you can just have the music in here if you wish to, and you can obviously maximize that window if you want to as well. The statistic name is used for the report that we're going to be using, and you can see the score that you last entered and the best score that you entered, and then just some general notes about this particular practice item. You can set the item as current or archived. If it's archived, then it won't show in some of the lookup windows, and you can also see how many times you've run it. So the first thing you do is set up your practice item, and then once you've got your practice items set up, then you can add those into a practice routine. So this particular practice routine is lesson 22. This was homework from my lesson 22. It's current at the moment, so I can actually use it. You can see that the duration is 20 minutes. It's going to take 20 minutes to run through. You can see the last time that I actually completed it and the total time that I have practiced it. So I've practiced this for about just about 6.5 hours. And then in the table here, you've actually got the items that you are going to practice. And you can double click. Again, if it's blue and underlined, you can double click and then you can view that particular practice item. You can see the duration, If you don't want to have an item in here, then you can simply click it. So if we take heroes out, and then we can just remove that, and the duration is updated. And we can also go into here and you can reorder those as well by going 1, 2, 3. You basically give them numbers and then you click to order them. Normally you would do all of those. If you are adding more practice items in here, so I'll just click 3, it will actually replace the list that's in here, so you would need to select all of them. It's not additive, it will replace it. But this is how you can set up practice routines, and you can add one item to one practice routine or multiple practice routines. So it is a many to many. You can have lots and lots of practice items in lots of different routines. So once you've got your routine set up, and I'm not going to save that, then you need to run the actual practice session itself. So to run the practice session itself, you will simply tab off to select the current record ID. You'll then select a practice routine. So I'm just going to do lesson 26 homework. That's the one I'm working on at the moment. I will then give you the summary information about the routine, and as read only in this table you can see all of the items that you need to run, how long they're going to run for, the last score and the best score. Now I have got an issue in the data here, that it is a bug, so this 100 needs to be changed. I didn't do that 100 times in a minute. That is a bug that I will need to resolve. But once you're into here, you can start the practice session by clicking that button. Now that tells you that the next practice item that you need to do is the pentatonic scale, the rock one, and the last time that you entered the stat for that it was 10. Now we're not actually running that at the moment, we're just in like free practice at the moment. And if we click this button to start the practice item, you will then see that the gas gauge will begin to count up, and that will run for a full minute because we told us that we want to do this session for a minute. And at this current time I'm running up and down that pentatonic scale as cleanly and as quickly as I can. So the last time I did this, I did it 10 times cleanly, and my best result is to run through that 11 times cleanly. So I'm just going to leave this to run up, and then I'll be back with you in just a moment. Okay, so if we wanted to and it was going really badly, I could just hit the reset button and then that will reset everything. But if we let it run to its conclusion, then the screen goes red. You get this big red bar which is in your face, so you can see that you now need to stop. And we can then click this button and it will prompt us for a score. Now I'm going to put a score of 10 in here because I managed to do it 10 times. And then you can see that that's actually saved the 10 into the table, and it will have updated the last and the best scores. And then we can click this button to go on and carry on with this practice session, recording the results at the end of each item. When we've finished, and I will jump forwards, we can either leave the system to continue to count up the amount of time that we've actually practiced, so that would be like free practice time, or you can click the completed log and time button. Now, I can't do that at the moment because obviously it is continuing to run, but when a system has finished and you've run through all 4, then you can click that button and save the record. So let me just pull up a last night's record, for instance. If I just say no, I don't want to save that. If you're trying to open up a record that you've already saved away, then it will prompt you, but you can then open that up and you can view any session notes that you might have added into there, and you can see all of the details. So that's how you would run through a practice session. Now, once you've got all of your practice sessions done, you might want to see how you're doing over time. Well, you can do that by clicking the practice charts button. And in here, this is basically an on-screen report. It will give you the choice of 2 reports. One is the amount of time that you've actually practiced. So you can see I've practiced for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, just over half an hour, and then an hour and a quarter. And you can see on the 23rd, I didn't actually do any practice whatsoever. And I haven't actually done any practice today yet. I can change those dates if I wish to, but you will need to bear in mind that this legend will become quite complicated and everything all starts to lay over each other. So I'm just going to go for the 2nd of August and we'll just rerun that. And then you can see over that period how much time you've actually spent practicing. As I said, the legend does become a little bit difficult. You could run this full screen, in which case it will look a little bit better. But for the moment, I'm just going to take that back to a reasonable set of dates. I'll just do the 23rd, sort of no good reason. Actually, I won't. I'm going to take that back to the 21st. I'll just run that. There we go. That gives us a nice little bit of data to work with. Now, if I want to, I can click the hide blank days, and then that will take out the days that we didn't do any practice. I tend to leave that unchecked for this particular report. And then underneath in the grid here, you can see the actual raw data. So the actual dates that we practice and the practice times. Now remember, you may well have practiced 2 different practice sessions, so 2 different practice routines on the same day. So you may well have 2 entries down the bottom, but it will be summed. It will give you a total in the top. The other report is the best score report. So if I just select that and then the dates that I want and just hit run, then that will give you the best scores that you have achieved over that period. Now again, you see this drop off where I didn't practice for a day. So if I do hide blank days, that will then smooth the grid for us. So the day is still in there, but you haven't actually got the data plotted. So it smooths it more. But you can see here that the 12 bar blues, I did reasonably well, dropped off, and then I've picked up, which is good. So steady progression. The REM Everybody Hurts, you can see I dropped. And the reason I dropped was, I believe, was when I started playing with my eyes closed. So the performance dropped significantly, and I've steadily managed to improve that. And you can see that the scales here are on a relatively upward curve, so I'm making some reasonably good practice. Now there is a button down here called filter. If you click that, then it will give you a list of all of the practice items that are relevant for the period that you are looking at. So for the moment, we've just got the 4, and I can say I don't want any of those, or I want all of them, or I can invert the selection, or I can just pick one. So I might want to pick the 12 bar blues, apply that, and then I'll just be able to see that one graph. Now, one of the main reasons for that is if I take this back to the 1st of August, for instance, and we rerun that filter, so let's just rerun that, then you'll see that there is a whole load of information here, which is actually quite difficult to read. But what I might want to do is I might want to filter and say, I don't know what actually runs across the full legend. Pretty much paint it black. So if we come down to paint it black, I'm going to select no options. We'll select paint it black. Let's do paint it black in heroes. So if we apply that, then you can actually see how you have performed over that period. That wasn't a great data set to choose. Let's just try another one. Let's go for, let's just do these 4. I mean, you get the idea. So over that period, you can see how I was performing, and I was doing fairly statically. Then we didn't do any practice. Then I did one. And if you do hide blank days, then you are still going to get that little bit of information there. I'm just going to choose, I'll just choose these 2. You'll still get those drops because the system knows that you did actually do some practice on that day. You just didn't practice these particular routines. So although hiding them doesn't actually really do too much in that respect. So just bear that one in mind. But I think this gives you quite a lot of information, and it's really nice when you are practicing to, I'm just going to go back to this little subset.
It's quite nice the fact that you can see your trends, and it does encourage you to practice and not to miss out days, and just to keep pushing forwards and trying to get better and better. I very nearly forgot to tell you about a really smart feature in the system. So if I just close out of here, and I'll just bring up the practice items again. So if I bring up a record, any old record will do, you'll notice there's the QBF initialize button. If we click that, that will then clear the form of all of the data, and it puts us into this QBF define query mode. Forget the toolbar for just a moment. But what we can do here is we can enter in certain criteria into many of these controls. So I'm just going to keep this very simple. We can say record ID, give me all records that are greater than 5, for example. We can then click the QBF run button, and that will then execute that query, and it will give us 12 records that are all of the records that are greater than 5. We can see that by going to the query table, and then you can see that all of these records are actually greater than 5. And if I just bring that over a little bit and make that wider, then you can see just some summary data. It's not overly easy to read in there. So what we can do is we've got this browse list, and we can just simply navigate through the browse list using these buttons. I can choose an actual record to go to in the list. So I want to go to number 8. I can go back to the beginning, go back to jump to the end. And the other thing that I can do in here as well is I can click on QBF query grid, and then that will give you a view of all of the controls on this particular form. Or I can do a find and say, give me all of the names containing. I'm going to go with DES, for example, and then that will give you the particular control names that you want. Or you can choose them. So I want to have description, I want to have document, duration, goal, and the ID. And then here we can say, okay, give me anything that is greater than 5, which is the one that we just did. And I want to sort that by descending. And then if I apply that, then we get that same particular results. Or I can pick, anything. I could go to, for example, what should we do? We'll go into description, containing. That will then give us all of the different descriptions that we've got. So if I go for plain it back riff, and I'll do by descending again, and then I apply that, and you can see here that the actual statement is being built for you, so you can see exactly what's going on. And I can apply that, and this time I just get a record 1 of 1 because there's only 1 in the actual browse list. Clicking the help system as before will take you through that, and it will also go through all of the comparison operators that are supported by the system with examples and the types of results. So when you've got a larger data set and you want to be able to find things, then this can be an absolutely ideal way of being able to find information within the system. So that's basically the system that I am using. I'm using it on a daily basis now. It's helping me no end. It's helping me have really structured sessions and to manage my practice time much better. It is going to be made available, I believe, to Revelation clients through the Works program. So if you're a Works subscriber, I believe that you will be able to get access to it. I would like to be able to release this to people that follow me on my YouTube channel. But obviously there are licensing implications because there's a database and application licenses. So I need to have some discussions internally, and if I can release it, then I will make a notification through my 6 String Journey blog or the YouTube channel or via my Patreon page. So more on that coming later. But that's the system. Hope you like it. I would love to see and hear your comments on the software. And I dare say some of you will have good comments, some of you have bad comments, but it's always nice to hear what people are saying. And the next video hopefully will be another guitar update. So we'll be back to my awful playing, and I've got a few other videos that I'm considering doing as well. One on the ME80, hooking that up to Reaper. So much more coming soon. So if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the bell button for notifications of those videos coming very soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you online again very soon. Take care. Bye bye.